Everyone thought he was poor, until the bank opened his account. Michael Carter wore the same faded blue jacket almost every single day. He was over 15 years old. The zipper barely worked. The sleeves had started to wear out. Yet he never replaced it. His car wasn't much different, a 16-year-old silver sedan. With more than 200,000 miles on the odometer, the paint had faded. The radio only worked when it wanted to. Sometimes it made strange noises before starting. His neighbors assumed he was struggling. Some even offered to help him, at work. People quietly wondered how someone his age could still be living paycheck to paycheck. Michael never argued. He simply smiled and went back to work every morning. He arrived exactly 10 minutes early. He packed the same homemade lunch. Turkey sandwich, apple, bottle of water. Nothing fancy. Every Friday, his coworkers ordered takeout, steak, pizza, burgers. Michael always declined. I brought my own lunch. Some laughed, some rolled their eyes, others whispered, "He's just too cheap." One coworker joked, "If Michael ever spends $10, it'll probably ruin his whole month." Everyone laughed. Michael laughed too, because explaining the truth was never part of his plan. Outside of work, his life looked even more ordinary. He rented the same small apartment for nearly 20 years. No luxury furniture, no expensive television, no designer clothes, no flashy vacations posted online. If you looked at his life for 5 minutes, you'd probably guess his bank account contained only a few $100s, but appearances can be unbelievably misleading. Every month, on payday, Michael followed the exact same routine. His salary arrived. Before buying anything, he paid himself first, 25%, automatically transferred into investments, another portion went directly into savings. Only what remained was available for spending. He repeated this routine, month after month, year after year. No shortcuts, no gambling, no lottery tickets, no trying to get rich overnight, just quiet consistency. Most people never noticed, because wealth rarely makes noise while it's growing. Then one Tuesday morning, something completely unexpected happened. Michael walked into his local bank, not to withdraw money, not to ask for a loan. He simply needed to update a few account details. A young bank employee greeted him politely. She looked at his old jacket, his worn-out shoes, his outdated car keys. She assumed this would be another routine appointment. She opened his account, typed in his customer number, pressed enter, and then she froze. Her smile disappeared. She blinked twice, thinking the system had made a mistake. Slowly, she refreshed the screen. The number didn't change. It wasn't $3,400. It wasn't $34,000. It wasn't even $340,000. The balance on Michael Carter's accounts was over $3,487,214. She looked up at the man sitting quietly across the desk, then back at the screen, then back at Michael. For the first time that morning, she realized the poorest-looking customer in the bank might actually be the richest. The secret nobody saw, the young bank employee couldn't stop staring at the screen. She checked the account number again. Everything was correct. The quiet man sitting in front of her was worth millions. Trying to hide her surprise, she smiled politely. "Mr. Carter, would you mind waiting for just a moment?" Michael nodded. "Of course." She walked into the manager's office. "Sir, I think you should see this." The manager looked at the account, then smiled. "I've known Mr. Carter for years. He's one of our favorite clients." The employee looked confused. "But he looks," the manager finished her sentence, "like someone who has no money." He smiled. "That's exactly why he has money." 30 years earlier, Michael wasn't rich, not even close. He was 25 years old, working as a warehouse clerk. His annual salary was just $38,000, nothing special. His friends earned about the same. The difference wasn't income, it was behavior. Every payday, his coworkers celebrated new shoes, new phones, weekend trips, new car payments. Michael celebrated differently. He bought shares every month. Without exception, some months, it was only $300, other months, $500. Whenever he received a raise, he didn't upgrade his lifestyle, he upgraded his investments. While everyone else increased spending, Michael increased saving. People often asked him, "Why don't you buy a nicer car?" He always gave the same answer, "My car still works." "What about a bigger apartment?" "I sleep just fine where I am." "You can afford better clothes." He simply smiled. "I already have enough." Most people thought he lacked ambition. The truth was, he had something far more valuable, A long-term plan. At first, his investment account barely moved. The first year, it reached around $5,000. 5 years later, it crossed $40,000. Still, nothing impressive. Some friends laughed. 5 years for $40,000. You could have enjoyed that money. Michael ignored them, because he understood something most people didn't. The beginning is always the slowest part. Then came year 10. His investments crossed $150,000 for the first time. The money he already owned started earning more money than he was adding. Compound interest had quietly taken over. Michael wasn't working harder. His money was. The years kept passing. Market crashes came. News headlines screamed, "Sell everything." Millions of investors panicked. Michael didn't. He kept buying every single month. When prices fell, he bought more shares. When prices recovered, his portfolio grew even faster. He never tried to predict the market. He simply trusted time. One afternoon, a coworker proudly showed everyone his brand new luxury SUV. The monthly payment was nearly $900. Everyone admired it. Michael congratulated him, then quietly drove home in his old silver sedan. No one realized that the $900 someone else spent on a car payment was almost exactly what Michael invested every month. The difference looked small for 1 month, but over 30 years, it became millions of dollars, little by little, without anyone noticing. Michael's bank balance kept growing, not because he earned a huge salary, not because he won the lottery, not because he started a business, but because he made hundreds of tiny financial decisions that nobody thought were important, and those tiny decisions were about to change how everyone saw him forever. The day everyone learned the truth. For 30 years, Michael Carter lived a life that nobody understood. To most people, he was the man who never upgraded, the man who always said no, the man who chose an old car over a new one, the man who wore the same jacket year after year. But what nobody knew was that every sacrifice had a purpose, every dollar had a mission, and every decision was building something invisible. One Friday afternoon, something unexpected happened at Michael's workplace. The company announced a retirement celebration for several employees. During the event, the manager gave a speech about loyalty and dedication. Then he mentioned Michael. "There's one person here who has worked quietly for decades. Someone who never asked for attention. Someone who always showed up and did his job. That person is Michael Carter." Everyone clapped. Michael stood up and smiled. But then the manager added something surprising. "Actually, Michael recently informed us that he will be retiring earlier than expected." The room became quiet. A coworker laughed. "Retiring? Michael?" Another person whispered, "How is that possible?" Everyone knew his salary. Everyone knew his lifestyle. They couldn't understand. After the event, a few coworkers approached him. "Michael, can I ask you something?" "Sure." "How can you retire? You never bought anything expensive. You never had a big house. You never looked wealthy." Michael smiled. "That's because I wasn't trying to look wealthy. I was trying to become wealthy." The room went silent. One coworker shook his head. "But you didn't make millions. You worked the same job as us." Michael nodded. "You're right. I didn't earn $1 million salary. I built $1 million future." He explained something they had never considered. Most people spend their money first and invest what is left, but usually, nothing is left. Michael did the opposite. He invested first, then lived on what remained. He showed them a simple calculation. If I invested $500 every month and allowed time to do the work, small amounts could become something much bigger. The money wasn't special. The process was. One coworker looked surprised. "So you never wanted the nice car?" Michael laughed. "Of course I did. I'm human. There were many times I wanted to buy expensive things. But I asked myself one question. Do I want this today? Or do I want freedom tomorrow?" That question changed everything. Because every luxury purchase had a hidden cost. A new car wasn't just the price of the car, it was the investment money that disappeared. A bigger house wasn't just a mortgage, it was years of extra expenses. A lifestyle upgrade wasn't just spending, it was the future wealth that never got created. The people who once felt sorry for Michael started seeing him differently. The old jacket wasn't a sign of failure. It was a symbol of discipline. The old car wasn't proof he was poor. It was proof he valued his goals more than appearances. The simple lifestyle wasn't because he couldn't afford more. It was because he understood something most people learn too late. Looking rich and being rich are two completely different things. A few weeks later, Michael officially retired. He didn't buy a mansion. He didn't buy a luxury car. He didn't suddenly change his personality. He simply continued living the same way, because the biggest reward wasn't the money. The biggest reward was knowing he had control over his time. But before leaving his workplace, he shared one final lesson with everyone, and it was something they would never forget. The real meaning of wealth. A few months after Michael retired, something happened that surprised everyone. People expected him to finally change. They expected a new luxury car, a bigger house, expensive vacations, designer clothes. After all, he had millions of dollars. But Michael did something completely different. He kept driving his old silver sedan. He kept wearing simple clothes. He kept living in the same apartment. His neighbors were confused. He kept driving his old silver sedan. He kept wearing simple clothes. He kept living in the same apartment. His neighbors were confused. One person finally asked him, "Michael, you have enough money to buy anything you want. Why are you still living this way?" Michael smiled. Because money was never about buying everything I wanted. It was about having the freedom to choose what matters. For years, people believed wealth was about showing expensive things. A luxury watch, a new car, a huge house, a lifestyle everyone could see. But Michael understood something different. Real wealth is often invisible. It is the ability to say no. No to a job you hate. No to unnecessary debt. No to financial stress. No to living only for the next paycheck. After retirement, Michael started helping young people understand money. He visited schools. He talked to workers. He shared his story. But he never told people, "Don't spend money." Instead, he taught them, "Spend intentionally." He explained, "There is nothing wrong with enjoying life. The problem is sacrificing your future for things that only impress other people." During one presentation, a young man asked him, "What's the biggest financial mistake people make?" Michael thought for a moment, then answered, "They try to look successful before they actually become successful." The room became quiet, because everyone understood what he meant. Many people buy expensive cars. With money they don't have, they buy expensive homes. With payments that control their lives, they spend years trying to convince strangers that they are wealthy. Meanwhile, quiet investors are building real wealth in the background. Michael showed everyone his final numbers. Over 30 years, he invested consistently. He avoided unnecessary debt. He allowed compound growth to work. His original contributions were only a fraction of his final wealth. The rest came from patience, time, and discipline. The same three things most people ignore at the end of every speech. Michael shared one message. Your financial future is created by the small decisions you repeat every day. Not one big decision. Not one lucky moment. Small choices. Repeated for years. The man everyone thought was poor was never poor. He was simply playing a different game. While others were trying to look rich, Michael was quietly becoming wealthy, while others were chasing attention. He was building freedom, while others were spending money to impress people. He was investing money to change his future. Years later, when people talked about Michael Carter, they didn't remember his old jacket. They didn't remember his old car. They remembered the lesson he left behind. The richest person in the room is not always the person wearing the most expensive clothes. Sometimes it's the person who needs nothing to prove. And that is the difference between being rich and becoming wealthy. Because money is not only about what you can buy today. Money is about creating choices for tomorrow. So before your next purchase, ask yourself one question. Am I buying this because I truly need it? Or because I want people to think I'm successful? Because the person who controls their money eventually gains control over their life. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.